Everest really tested me mentally and physically, but I think emotionally it was Denali because I knew I could do it. I trained really hard. I know how to climb on ropes. I know how to climb on glaciers. I know everything. Maybe not everything, but I'm so strong and I'm so able, and yet I can't because the weather held me back.
Hey, Lou, good morning. Great to see you again. How's everything out west?
Right. Oh, everything's great. Thanks, Rob. It's nice to see you as well. Under this new platform, Bold Journeys. Congratulations.
Yeah, we met under Channel Journeys
We
quite a while
did.
ago,
We
but it's
did.
been so fun following your journey on and off the out of the office, what you do. And
Hmm.
I think we share something in common, and that is just a very strong passion for something outside of work that gets us
Yes.
in the outdoors.
Yeah.
But yours gets you to a much higher altitude than what I get to.
Yeah, I think yours on ocean level and ground level, and mine's at
Yeah.
altitude. Yeah, but still
Yeah.
a
Well, I've
passion. Yeah.
I think I've climbed my bike up to I did go over Vail Pass, so whatever that is. That's probably the highest
Okay,
I've
so just
cycled.
over 10,000 feet, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
But you're going quite a bit higher than that as a mountain climber. So I looked up your website, Lou, and it was really nice
Yeah.
because you had laid out, and I'm sure this isn't even all your climbs, but the big climbs I think you have listed there. So
Right.
I just want to
Right.
read them out so the audience can get a feel for the extent of your climbing pedigree of what you've
Okay.
done. Okay. So
Okay.
you in 2004, you made it to the Mount Everest base camp.
Uh-huh.
And you also climbed, is it Kalapatar?
Kalapatar. Yeah,
Cal
3 times now. Yeah.
3 times now. Okay.
Mhm.
The next year you went to Kilimanjaro, summited that. And then in
Yeah.
'06 and '07, you climbed Mount Rainier,
Right. The first time
which,
I didn't make it, the second time I did. So
okay.
there's a whole backstory there, but yes. Mhm.
So, growing up, Mount Rainier was in our backyard, meaning
Yeah.
looking out our back window when it wasn't raining, we could always see
Yeah.
Mount Rainier. It was just,
Beautiful, isn't
yeah,
it?
the greatest sight.
Mhm.
And everyone talks in Seattle when the mountain's out, when it
Yeah.
when it
Yep.
finally clears out. Okay,
Mhm.
in 2009, you went to Russia and you climbed, what is it, Mount Elbrus?
Mount Elbrus, that's right. It's the highest mountain in Europe.
Wow. And then Aconcagua in Argentina,
Yeah, the highest mountain in South America.
highest mountain in South America. Then in 2012, you had your first attempt on Denali.
Ah, yes. Denali is my anchor, keeps dragging me down.
We'll talk about that. Then you went in 2013 to Morocco,
Yeah.
Mount Toubkal.
Toubkal, yeah, the highest mountain in North Africa.
Wow, there's a theme here of finding the highest mountains
Yeah.
everywhere. Then I love this. You went to Europe and you summited Mount Blanc,
Mont Blanc,
and
yeah.
also the Matterhorn.
And the Matterhorn, yes.
That
Mhm.
had to have been so cool. Then you went down to Ecuador and you climbed 3 mountains there?
Cotopaxi, Eliani, and, Chimborazo, yeah. So one of those
Wa
is the highest in Ecuador, yes.
wow, and then you went back to Nepal, and was this when you climbed to the summit of Everest?
Yes. Yeah, the
Wow.
summit, yes, in 2018.
Just
Mhm.
incredible, and then you went to Mexico, Pico de Orizaba,
Orizaba, the highest in Mexico,
the
yep.
highest in Mexico, of course, and then Antarctica. Was this the
Mount
highest mountain
Vinson, yep, the highest in
in
Antarctica.
Antarctica? And then was this the highest, I don't even know how you say this, what's the highest peak in Australia?
Kosciuszko,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a
Kosciuszko?
yeah. Yeah, it's a day hike, but there was a whole backstory on that one as well because I got pretty injured on that one. You would think on a day hike, but yeah, it was bad.
Well,
Mhm.
I've seen some of the worst bike crashes on the easiest bike rides. It's
Okay, so me, I'm not alone.
No, I think sometimes your guard's down on the easy ones. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so that was Australia. That was 2023. What has come after that since then?
Well, we kind of alluded to it. It was a bunch of knee surgeries, but then I tried to heal, kind of healed, and then I went back to Denali again this year. So I was
Yep.
there in May of this year, and second attempt. although it's my fourth time training for it, because COVID shut down one year, and then I
Yeah,
had a knee surgery in the next year, and even though I was training it, I had a knee injury. So, yeah, I tried it again. So this will be my it was my fourth time training for it, but my second time on the mountain, and the second time again got shut down because of weather.
because
Yeah,
of weather. Was it weather
it
the
was a
first time too?
it was,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Mhm.
Something totally out of your control.
It was. Yeah, we tried really hard. We got up to the highest camp at 17,200 feet, and we spent a very, very, very cold, treacherous night there, just trying to wait out the wind and the cold, and it just wasn't going to work. And so we quickly descended back to 14,000 camp and waited that out, and it just didn't, we just couldn't make it. The weather was saying no that year. It was tough.
Well, you know,
Mhm.
the times I've gotten in trouble sailing is when the weather wasn't right for it, but I was under a schedule and we went anyway.
Yep.
And that's that's always the worst thing to do. So I'm glad to hear that you didn't attempt it, even though I'm sure your heart was just aching that you couldn't get up there.
Well, we knew that the weather was coming in, not like the storm was coming in, not outgoing. And as the storm was coming in, my days on the mountain got shorter and shorter and shorter because you only have a certain amount of provisions. I only had a certain
Mhm.
amount of time off, and it was getting worse. It wasn't like it was going to let up. We knew it was getting worse. And there's something what's called the factor of 40, and that's where you look at the temperature and the wind speed, and if it equals 80 or 40 and above, then you really shouldn't be climbing. And when we were there, it was a minus 35 degrees with 45-mile-an-hour wind. So the factor is 35 plus 45 is 80. So it was double the risk at what we should have been doing. One side of me said, yeah, let's take the risk because I just wanted it so bad. But
Yeah.
the other side, which is the guide side, said, nope, we're not going up. So we had a retreat. It was a hard decision.
Yeah.
Really tough.
Yeah, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that. Well,
Thank
I
you.
wore my mountain climbing jacket vest
Oh,
here
you're
for you, but I gotta
punchy.
take it off. It's getting up to 70 degrees here in Atlanta, so in November, so I'm just
Wow. That's warm for November.
yeah, for here for especially. All right, so Lou, I haven't talked about this with you. Take me back to your childhood, and I mean, were you climbing
Childhood.
up and down couches and jumping off your bed?
Childhood. Oh my goodness. I wasn't
what was it like
expecting
growing
this
up?
one. I was born in Ireland, and it's pretty flat there. So,
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot of mountain climbing there. And then I immigrated to Canada, but went to Ottawa, and there's not a whole lot of mountain climbing there. But I was always really active, just gymnastics and soccer. I played touch football for 10 years as a quarterback for the last three, and that was where I first injured my knee. And I was on a rowing team. So it's always very active, but not on the mountain climbing side. It was only when I moved to the US that I started getting interested in mountaineering. And it was because of a book that I read. And I got introduced to mountain biking, mountain climbing, and the whole thing just became a thing for me. And I just never looked back. So I'm so grateful for everything that happened to get me to this where I am now.
How old were you then at that time when you moved to the US?
I've been here 25 years. So, my 30. No, a little bit earlier than that. Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
And was there any was this in your family at all? Did you have any relatives that were into this, or is it just something that you uniquely found an interest in?
No, no, there is nothing like this in my family. And I always say, when I moved to the US, and this is sort of the journey share that I have, is that I was really lonely. I moved here. I didn't know anyone. I was working out of a satellite office. I was kind of going into an office by myself. So every evening and every weekend I spent by myself. And a friend of mine
Mhm.
suggested I read a book about the 1996 Everest disaster. And it was a tragic story, but it also introduced me to the concept of mountaineering. I didn't know people like me could climb a mountain as big as Everest. So it was really a book that got me introduced to this concept. And I just started reading and reading and reading. And I loved the journey. I loved the thought of people climbing mountains. And I made a promise to myself that one day I would see Mount Everest. And so I did. 4 years from reading that book, I made the trek to Everest Base Camp, and I saw Everest for the first time. And then I promised myself that one day I was gonna climb that mountain, and It took 14 years from that point to the point where I got to the summit. It was a 14-year journey, but it was worth it
Wow.
because in between, as you noted, all those other mountains. I mean, those are only some of the mountains. I've done a lot of more, but just yeah, it's been a really, really incredible journey. I'm very, very grateful for it. But I always say, things happen for reasons. Sometimes it was bad things. Moving
Hmm.
countries was scary. Being lonely was lonely. Just there's a lot of things that happened in between, but all of it got me to that summit. And I always say, if I took one thing out, would I have even made that summit? I don't think so. So I had to experience all the ups and downs in order to see the view from that summit.
Yeah, you do. And it's funny that a book about a disaster on Everest led you to that, and
Mhm.
that had to come from a very adventurous spirit inside of you, I'm I'm kind of the same way. You read something like that. I read about, sailing disasters and things like that, but it doesn't scare me away from the ocean. It emboldens me and makes me want to get out there
Yes,
and just test myself.
that's the same thing with me. Yeah, I'm kind of addicted. I love podcasts, and I'm a little bit addicted to survival podcasts. I love hearing what went wrong, so I know what I can do to make it go right. But I love the survival part of it and the daring side and the adventure side. It just sparks something in me that I can't seem to put a cap on. So give me the most daring thing and I'm gonna say yes to it. I know. Sometimes it's
Ha-
not so smart.
Have you listened? I just listened to this. It's a podcast about the woman who got stuck on Mount Hood, and she
Mhm.
was alone, got injured, alone for 6 days, and just was stuck on Mount Hood in a blizzard. Got a little lost. Yeah, I'll have to send
I
it to you. It's
haven't.
quite the story.
Wow. That's a tough 6 days.
Yes, but, you were talking about on Denali, you'd made the decision not to go because of weather.
Mhm. Right?
She admits now she made the wrong decision, and she knew she shouldn't go, but she was just in denial, and just her
Yeah.
her head was so strong, just, "I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it," and went
Yeah,
even though.
sometimes you think you can beat Mother Nature, and I've had a
Mhm.
couple of those. I alluded to Australia and how I got pretty injured, and that was due to I can do this. It's an easy hike, bad weather, no big deal. And yeah, I got pretty badly injured, and that just sort of changed the course of things. Yeah,
Does that
it's tough.
hike or is another hike that stands out as really testing you the most? Was it Everest? Just really testing you mentally, physically, in all ways?
Yeah. Well, Everest, because it was so long, like a 7-week journey. And you're in a tent for over 6 weeks, and I always say I was, 6 weeks without a shower, so, that whole just getting down to basics and just just it you're there I always said we had 3 things to do every day. It was eat, sleep, and survive. And everything else gets taken away. So as hard as it is, it's also a little bit easier because 'cause you're not dealing with traffic and groceries and to-do items. You literally just had to eat, sleep, survive. But it was hard. You'd wake up to avalanches and they would be scary and they'd be roaring towards base camp. Or you're going through the Khumbu ice fall and crossing those ladders and you're hearing the creaking of the glacier underneath you and you're not sure if things are gonna the ice is gonna break or not. And, the altitude is very, very difficult. And it really puts a whole lot into just, as much training as I did, I thought, wow, I could have used a whole lot more training. There's just so much that you can do. So Everest really tested me mentally and physically, but I think emotionally it was Denali because I knew I could do it. I trained really hard. I know how to climb on ropes. I know how to climb on glaciers. I know everything. Maybe not everything, but I'm so strong and I'm so able, and yet I can't because the weather held me back a couple of times. And it was kind of got to me. There's something called the post expedition blues, and I really struggled with it after this last Denali trip where I just couldn't really make sense of things.
Hmm.
Just seemed so like, I tried so hard and just silly things stopped us. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, there's
Mhm.
postpartum depression, I've heard of that, but it's post and is it typically
Post
when
expedition blues.
yeah, does it
Yeah.
happen after a successful expedition or only with one like Denali?
No, it's a known thing. when you do something really, really, really hard. So when I got back from Everest, my life shifted in a little way. People were interested in my story. Like for me, Everest was about me. It's something I wanted to do. It's not something I posted very much about. It was really just, it was something that I had in my soul that I wanted to accomplish. And
Mhm.
then I got home and people wanted to know, like, it was just a more fanfare than I was expecting. And there also, when you're training, like I was waking up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was going, going, going. And then I would go to work. And every day was, okay, how do I make this work? Every day you had a goal, or I had a goal, and that was to make sure I was as fit as possible. And then you get back from the mountain and you're like, well, I don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock anymore, which you'd think is a good thing. But it was also like, wow, what am I going to do today? It's just going to work. And then it's just like, everything felt flat. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you come back feeling like, "Okay, what's my goal today?" And you're in this constant motion of thinking, like, towards one thing that makes you really, really happy, and then it's gone. And so the only thing that can make me happy again is booking that next trip, that next expedition, going somewhere that's thrilling and adventurous and scary and risky. That's what makes me happy. And I know it. There's some therapy there that would say something crazy, but it
Yeah.
does. It fuels you, and you probably feel the same thing with your sailing and biking. And there's something about getting out there and pushing yourself mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do know what you're talking about. When I'm training for a big bike ride, or even ones that aren't that challenging, like Ragbri, we're riding for a full week across Iowa, and it's just
Mm.
such a great event, and you're looking forward to it, and you get home and you're kind of disappointed, and you got to
Yes.
really get psyched up again to start training. And when we're
Yeah.
sailing across the ocean, and it's funny because as soon as you leave, you're looking at the chart and counting down the days till you get there. But
Yep.
but
Mhm.
then you get there and you're so disappointed that it's over.
Yes, I completely agree, and I'm a Garmin fanatic, so I'm constantly looking at my stats, and is my HRV good? Is my VO2 max good? And what's my training status? And I love it, and then when I'm not training, it's like, "Huh," it feels like there's a void there. So, yeah, but I don't know, maybe it's a slight addiction.
Oh, it is, I'm sure.
Mhm.
What
Yep.
when you're training for Denali or another big mountain climb, what does your training regimen look like?
So every mountain's different. And so
Yeah?
for Denali, it's because you're carrying a lot of gear. I was carrying up to 125 pounds of gear on my back and then pulling a sled. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's hard when you're climbing at altitude on fixed lines on those ropes and you've got crampons on and climbing with that much gear takes enormous, enormous strength, just legs, cardio, core. So it's different than training for Everest. Everest, we're not carrying that much gear, but we are climbing higher with less oxygen. So it was a much, much bigger cardio climb than it was a strength climb. So
Mhm.
the training regime, like what my training plans were for both mountains, were completely different. It was almost harder training for Denali because I had to add in a very, very heavy strength component to a big cardio component as well. So it was a lot. But that's why I hired a strength training coach just to make sure I was really doing the right thing and, getting as strong as possible because it's hard to carry that much gear at altitude on fixed lines. And when you're on fixed lines, you're climbing with other people, so you have to climb at a certain pace. So it's not like you're just climbing, in whatever way you want to climb. You have to climb together as a team, otherwise the team goes off because you're roped in together. So you have to be able to keep up with the person. You have to keep a certain distance, a certain tautness in the rope. So everything is very, very specific in how you climb. So you have to be as good as the strongest person, or yeah, because you don't wanna be the weakest link. At least I don't.
No. No, you don't wanna be that guy.
No, not at
What
all.
what does your strength training look like? Are you in the gym doing squats or what? What does it look like?
It was a lot of lower body work because
Mhm.
and a lot of core work because of all that you're carrying, but there's there on Denali, there's something called like, there's a head wall, and you're climbing that head wall, and you're using your legs to climb it, but you also have a heavy pack, so you have to, lift up on the sender device and use your
Yeah.
legs to bring you up and lift up and bring your legs, so you've got some upper body strength as well. So it was a whole mix of mostly legs, then core, and then upper body. It was a lot. Yeah, so
Wow. Wow.
I would alternate between cardio strength, and then on the weekends, I would do a really, really long hike. So I can get up to about 11,000 feet here in SoCal, Southern California, and I would carry a heavy, heavy pack. I'd be up to 60 pounds and just carrying that for, sometimes 8 to 10 hours, just depending on what trail I was choosing, what hike I was doing. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
You
Hmm.
know, rucking has become so popular. I see a lot of people doing it
Yes.
here. Now, typically,
Hmm.
they've got 25, maybe 40 pounds of weight,
Yeah.
but do you do that as well?
I do have a weight vest, and it's 40 pounds, and I do that on the stair climber. So I will do the stair climber for 2 hours with a 40-pound vest,
2 hours.
and that burns you out. Yes, it's hard. But I always think to myself, if I'm going to invest this much money, this much time, the sacrifice, the time off work, the time away from family, the risk that's involved, I made a promise to myself when I climbed Everest that if I didn't make the summit, it wasn't due to my fitness. And so I keep that promise to myself on every expedition. If something happens, it's not because I couldn't make the summit. Some other extenuating circumstance was the reason. And for Denali, it was definitely the weather. So
Yeah.
I actually enjoy it. I know there's a purpose towards it, and yeah, and so it's as hard as it is, it's very gratifying, and then to see your fitness stats go up because, I'm addicted to the data, it's gratifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I think so anyway.
Yeah. You're obviously very tough physically, Lou, but
Yeah.
where does the mental toughness come in? Because that's gotta be too. Just oh, Amber Alert.
Oh,
Turn off my
hope
phone.
everything's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have those in California? Are those
We do.
nationwide? Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah, you
do.
always take a
Yeah.
look. It's because you wanna be sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the mental toughness, is that something you think you've always had or have you been able to develop that as well?
Sometimes I think it comes from being very competitive, where I
Mhm.
don't wanna fail. I don't wanna be the last person pulling into camp. I don't wanna be the weakest link, so all of that comes into play, and
Mhm.
then in order to you ca sometimes it's a struggle, if you are out in the elements for a really long time, like my summit day for Everest was 19 hours, and that was just Camp 4 to the summit back to
Mm.
Camp 4. That didn't include, the 5 weeks beforehand. You have to have some kind of mental tough you just have to suck it up, and I always remember being on one of the fixed lines on one of the head walls where I was very, very sick, had a chest cold, I pulled 2 ribs from coughing so much, I got the Kumbu cough from inhaling, dry glacier air, and just I was miserable, and I just made the decision on that head wall, just suck it up. Do I wanna get there? Yes. Well, then stop thinking about how awful I feel and just do it. And I literally just it was like a light switch that I turned on. I just turned it on and go, "Enough." Like, don't think about the pain, just keep moving forward. And from that point it was almost like from that point forward, I can do that now in many aspects of my life. Suck it up. Do it. And it works. And it was almost like I could even though I could still feel the pain, I wasn't obsessed with the pain. I moved from that obsession of how my ribs hurt and how much I was coughing and how much I couldn't breathe and how much my body hurt. I moved from that moment to, all right, I've got this. Just keep moving forward. And it was really enlightening. And I've never felt that switch before. And now I can go back to it. I've got that muscle memory and I go back to it and like, okay, use that. Switch it on. Go to that mental toughness. Everyone has it. I think you just have to be pushed to your limits where you're just gonna break into pieces. And I felt like I was breaking on that head wall that day. So I had to
Interesting.
go to it. Mhm.
It's a
Yeah,
mindset. It's a mindset decision that you made.
it was. Yeah. Yeah. But I think everyone has it. I just hadn't used it until that point on that head wall. And I had to because it was the only way I was gonna get through that day. It was a really long day. and it was climbing on what's called blue ice, and blue ice is the toughest ice where you just dig in with your crampons and you just slip anyway. You dig in, so you have to really, really dig in with the, the spikes in front of you that you put on your boots, and then use your center device to go up, and then dig in, go up, dig in, and you're doing this for hours, and you're constantly slipping because the ice is so hard, it's hard to dig it in. And so it's exhausting. It's just, and you mentally and physically, you're just spent. And I knew if I had to get past the head wall in order to get to Camp 3. So that was the head wall is between Camp 2 and Camp 3 on what's called the Lhotse face. And I knew if I didn't climb it, I wouldn't get to Camp 3. And if I didn't get to Camp 3, I wouldn't get to Camp 4, and and so on. So there was no choice. You either climb it or don't. And then the choice was, can I do this in a mindset that will take me there, or am I just going to focus on the pain? And
Yeah.
so I made the decision, stop focusing on the pain and just focus on getting there. And it worked. I was surprised at how the pain was still there, but it didn't feel painful, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I can relate to it a little bit. One of the bike rides I do here is called Six Gaps. And it's an
Yeah.
annual event in the mountains, and you go over, they call here in Georgia a gap as a pass. So it's
Yeah.
over 6
Yeah.
passes. Um, Nothing like the Rockies, like that, but it's still pretty steep climbing. And there's one called Hogpen, and it's the toughest climb. And I know the first time I did it, I didn't think I was going to make it. I'm in so much pain, and I'm just just
Mhm.
totally mental drive to get through it. And I had read a trick that you count down from 10. So you like with
Mm.
every stroke, you count in your head 1 to 10. And
Yeah.
so I'd sit for 10 strokes and I'd stand for 10 strokes, sit for 10 strokes, stand for, and I did that like hundreds of times to get up that mountain.
Wow. Wow. I'll have to use that when I next go mountain biking or
Yeah.
climbing a head wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be, yeah, like, dang, Robbie, all I can do is count
I
now.
know, right?
Got to get that out of my
If it
head.
works, though. If it works, that's good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is just wild. So that's just huge emotional resilience. And have you applied it outside of climbing in other areas? That trick?
That's actually a good question. I don't th I don't f there's nothing that I've really found that has been that physically and emotionally taxing. I do
Yeah.
a lot of mountain biking, but I can get off my bike, I'm not gonna die. So,
Right.
like, I can't get off a head wall when you're roped
Yeah.
in. Yeah, no, nothing. I haven't used. It's really been just climbing. And when you get into well, actually, when I was, mentioned, I mentioned this Australia trip when I got injured. So
Hmm.
it was not a high climb at all, but it happened to be the highest in Australia. So I was doing it, and I got stuck in really bad weather, and I fell and I busted my knee, and I was in the middle of nowhere. I was alone, and I had no support at all. And I had to go to that space, and so even though it was more of an injury, so it was a big injury. I ended up needing an ACL replacement. I completely busted my knee, and I went to that space. Okay, how am I gonna get out of here? I'm alone. I'm in the middle of nowhere. My every device I have is dying on me. I don't have a way of getting out of here safely, and I have to figure out how to do it by myself. 'Cause I was trying to do the 15 highest mountains in all of Australia, so I was way, way, way off the beaten path in a place that most people don't go, so I was pretty alone there, and I was pretty badly injured in a pretty bad storm, and just trying to figure my way out and scooting down on my butt because I couldn't stand, and I was caught in a low, low cloud and hail and rain and snow and trying to figure my way out. It was part was hot, and I went to that space. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this because the last thing I want to do is call search and rescue. So I
Yes.
was trying to figure out how do I get out of here with a very busted knee in weather that where I can't see anything and I don't know where the trail is because I went way off trail trying to get to this mountain. It was actually a mistake. It was a lesson learned.
It sounds like that movie Into the Void with the guy just
Oh,
crawling, on his hands and knees trying to get back to camp.
Touching the Void is one of the best movies ever. Yes.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
just you're just on the edge of
Mhm.
your seat watching that thing, just
I can't believe he survived. And spoiler alert, he survived and to tell the story, but it's an incredible story. What a decision that his partner made to cut that rope, and then for him to survive it, and the only way he would have survived is if he cut the rope. It
Yeah.
was sort of a full circle moment. It was interesting. I don't know how they did it.
No,
Yeah.
incredible. And the way they filmed it was just so well done.
Yes.
Did
Yeah,
you
it
have a
was a great
song
book.
going through your head in those moments when you were trying to get back?
No, I didn't. No, it was literally just survival. How do I get out of here when my knee is so badly damaged and I can't see the trail and my devices are done. Yeah, I brought solar panels, I brought extra chart, nothing was working because the weather was so bad and I was out for so long. Yeah, it was a
So
really bad mistake.
enough
Mhm.
of disasters, Lou. What are some of the
Yeah,
most glorious moments that you've experienced out there?
glorious. Well, one, meeting people. I have to say it would be really sad if all of this was alone and it was all about me. But I've met some of the most incredible people mountain climbing, people who are still friends, people I would never meet just in general because they're different countries, different
Mm,
lifestyle, just people I wouldn't have connected with. And just having connections with people who I still have a connection with someone I met at base camp in 2004. We still exchange Christmas cards. We still exchange email. Like that's pretty incredible, right? Someone I would, and she lives in Wales, and we're still connected. And just going on, you meet people on trips. And you're like, okay, well, let's do a trip together in the next place. Someone who's not in the industry at all, so who brings a different connection. I love that. That part is a glorious moment.
mhm.
Um, I think seeing places that most people don't get to see, I always think about the top of Russia, the Caucasus mountain range. It's a beautiful mountain range. It is very difficult to get there. The logistics of that to get to, Mount Elbrus, and then just that mountain range is incredible. I just feel really fortunate to see those parts of the world. Um, I think about the Matterhorn or Mont Blanc. When I was on Mont Blanc, it was a very, very, very bad weather day, and we tried anyway. I hired a private guide, and we tried and we tried. Everyone was turning around, and we ended up making the summit that day. And it was his 30th time on the summit, and it's a very popular mountain in Europe. And it was his only time just with a client. Every other time, there's 200 people sharing the summit. And just to be able to have this summit to ourselves and be in France and see Italy and Switzerland, just to have that moment and just really appreciate everything that's, all of your hard work. And then just to sit there in that silence and go, wow, I'm in a place where most people don't get to. It's pretty glorious. Yeah, I like that word. I like to use that as a glorious moment. Those were
Well,
glorious moments.
and that's kind of how I feel when I'm out in nature, and I'm pretty spiritual, so I'm thinking
Yeah.
about this is just amazing what God has created, and I don't know if that faith
Yes,
touches you, Lou, but
it
it's
does.
just it's just so powerful, and
Yeah,
it's
it is
just awesome.
powerful, and it really, really is. And I feel also very fortunate to be able to do it physically, mentally, and just have the time off work, the time, away from family, the funds to do it. It's really expensive. Everything has to come together,
Yeah,
and it does. And yeah, I feel very blessed that I get to experience this.
yeah.
And I don't know I can't imagine life without it. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Do you really get a chance, like you mentioned, that situation where you're up there with just the guide and just the two of you being able to appreciate it? But typically, when you make it to the summit of these mountains, are you is there too much risk, or can you really take a moment to absorb that beauty and just the awe of what you've done and what nature is all
Yeah.
around you?
It depends on the mountain.
Yeah,
So with Everest, it took me 13 hours to get from Camp 4 to the summit. So we got there at 11 o'clock. When the turnaround time is usually around 2 p.m. So we had enough of a like enough time to really sit and enjoy it, but I couldn't. I was frantic. There was snow coming. There was weather changing. I was really tired. I knew I had to get down as soon as possible. If I could do it over again, which I would consider going again. I would love to sit there and really notice the curvature of the earth, really notice the Himalayas. I didn't. I was frantic I got to change out my oxygen, get something to drink, and then take off because I knew it was going to be a long descent going down to Camp 4. But when I was on the top of Mont Blanc, I just sat there and just looked at how beautiful it was. It was incredible. Top of Matterhorn is very, very narrow, and it's very, very small. We had a lot of wind that day, and people trying to get to the summit as well. So it's like literally, you get to the summit, take the picture, and you just try to get down this very. It's called the it's a backbone. I can't remember the name. It's a very, very narrow ridge that you've got to navigate with people going up. Every
Okay. If
mountain is different. It just depends on how big the summit is. Sometimes the summits are really small. Russia is a very small summit. So there's not you can't really spend a lot of time there when there are a lot of other climbers coming up. So you kind of take that one picture, look around a bit, and then take off. But it just depends on that summit and how big it is and what the weather looks like. Yeah, it's great because every moment is different. Every summit is different.
I'm thinking of
Mm.
the pictures of the Matterhorn, and it looks like just a tiny, tiny peak, like
It
might fit one
is.
person on the top.
It is. Yes. It's a hard climb, and it's mostly a rock climb. So I wanted to do the Alps trilogy, which is the Eiger, the Matterhorn, and Mont Blanc. So I still have the Eiger left, which is another rock climb. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm built for rock climbing. I'm built more for glaciers, long expeditions, really long days versus this quick up and down. But yeah, Matterhorn's a tough one, and then it's a tough, really small summit. And yeah,
The rock climbing, is there a fear factor there at all for you? Because there is for me. I'd be scared to death to
really,
do. Oh yeah,
why are you
yeah.
afraid of it?
Oh, maybe I just probably the fear of heights. I can be up on a mountain and not freak out, but when I
Yeah.
rock climb and I get a certain height up, even rappelling, it's I have that little
Oh,
fear factor that
really?
kicks in. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and when you're roped up, you've got your helmet and everything's clipped in properly?
Well, it's that first leap. Once I get going, I'm okay, but it's
Yeah.
that trusting the rope for the first leap is always a
I think it's muscle memory too. I think you have to do
yeah,
it enough times, and when you're training for these, you do it a lot. You're constantly rappelling up, you're jumping off, you're free
yeah,
falling, so that you know how to catch yourself and you know what that motion feels like, and once you get a hang of it, now it's not scary anymore, but yeah, I am a firm believer in that muscle memory because once you do it often enough, it becomes this is part of the journey. This is part of the climb. So
yeah,
yeah, it's no longer fear. I actually think I love rappelling off. It's exciting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you're when you're kind of free falling and then you hit the rock and you free fall again. It's fun.
It looks
Yeah,
so cool. It looks so cool. I heard someone else talk about it, and it was a little bit about mindset too, that you can it's a bit of a
yeah.
choice that you can train your head on whether or not you're gonna feel
Can
that fear.
yes. It's I when I was climbing on Everest, you're climbing you're going over the crevasses, so it's those ladders and you're climbing over them. I couldn't train for them. It's really hard to train, put a
Mhm.
ladder over a crevasse here in Southern California. So the first time I got on those fixed lines on and crossed the crevasse on those ladders, it was scary, and it's really bouncy or wobbling, it's just a loose rope holding you on, but once and we had to go through the Khumbu Ice Fall multiple times because 'cause you're going up to Camp 1, you come back down to base camp, you go up to Camp 2, you come back down to base camp, and each time you're climbing through the Khumbu Ice Fall and you're going across these ladders. By the time you come down from the summit and you go from Camp 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and then you cross the ice fall and all these ladders, you just clip in and you walk across, and it's
Yeah,
nothing. There's no fear, there's nothing because 'cause you've done it 20, 30, 40 times because you keep
yeah,
going up and down and depending on how many ladders they need to fix, and it's changing constantly, and it's kind of fun, it's like a relief, like, when you first started, you're like a little baby trying to cross this thing, and by the time you summit and come back down, you're just
yeah.
flying across. It's kind of a neat feel it's a very freeing feeling to have that muscle memory, that fear factor is gone. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
but
that's so cool. All right,
yeah.
so we're gonna shift gears a little bit, Lou, and I've got a rapid
Alright.
fire set of questions for you.
Uh-oh, okay.
So I'm gonna challenge you, see if and they don't always work, but see if you can give a one-word answer for these. That's your challenge.
Okay, let's try it.
All right. Um, what's one summit that really changed you?
Everest.
Gonna say it sounded like Everest. What's harder, the ascent or the descent?
Descent.
What's your mental reset when fear does creep in?
Suck it up. 3 words.
Suck it, suck it up. We can convert that into one word.
Okay.
What's one climb you do again in a heartbeat?
Everest.
Everest.
Mhm.
And what was your boldest move on the edge of disaster? You can use more than one word for this one.
Um, keep going.
Keep going. Keep going. Did you
Mhm.
did, does every climb have those moments like you? I think of cycling, and there are a lot of times where you'll go, "Wow, that was close." Like you're
Yes.
going around a sharp turn or whatever it might be in
Yeah,
mountain biking. A rut or something or a rock that you almost fell, but you recovered. Do you have those on
right.
every climb? Kind of those sudden
Yeah, pretty much
rescue
every
save moves?
climb. Yeah, pretty much every climb has that moment where you're like, I need to make a decision. Is this a go forward or is this a turnaround? And you
Yeah,
have to think, what are the risks? What are the implications? And sometimes some are bigger than others. But for these big expeditions, there's usually something that will make you think, I need to reconsider this. Yeah, it could be weather, it could be team, it could be health, it could be just your environment. There's a whole lot of things that can go wrong.
yeah.
And so you got to make that decision. Is it big enough risk? Is it worth it? Yeah. And I've turned around on some mountains. The first time was on Rainier, and turned around on that one. Just it was extreme weather. It was like it felt like my organs were blocks of ice. Like I
Oof.
physically just couldn't feel like there was just it would have been disaster with limbs and organs. I don't know. So I had to turn around, and so that was a very extreme, but other times it's like, oh, someone's not pulling their weight. I'm not feeling good today. Can we make this work, or do I suck it up and just go, it's worth it? So you do.
That might be
Sometimes you
the
do.
hardest part for me, Lou, is the cold. And
Oh, really?
yeah, I know, and we cycle through the winter here and we'll go out and
Yeah.
it may start in the 20s, but it'll warm up to 40s or 50s. But it's always that first half hour where my toes and fingers are just freezing,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
you're riding along, you just can't wear enough and still ride. And
Hmm.
that
But
is always
would you rather ride in the heat or the cold?
the heat for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't I don't mind the heat. I get used to the heat. And
uh,
yeah, for me I can drink enough and do much better
yeah.
in the heat than in that freezing cold.
Interesting. Okay, I'd much rather have the cold than the heat.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I can layer more and more, but with the heat, you get down to just your shorts and a t-shirt, and there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And now what do you do? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
now what do
much
you
rather
do?
be cold. Yeah,
Yeah.
much
Though
rather.
I've tried that mental trick and it seems to work when my fingers or toes are just super cold, and I'll just use my mind to say, like you said, you just don't, um, what's the term? Enjoy the suck or whatever. You just accept
Yeah,
it, and you don't let it
accept it.
you
Yes.
don't let it dominate your thoughts. It's just like, and then you start convincing yourself that they're not cold. And I'll play mental games. No, they're not cold.
I think it's good to do that until it becomes a very, very extreme environments, and then you got to go. Okay, this is cold, and I'm gonna lose some. I'm gonna lose some digits here.
Yeah,
I was at
I'm not in
yeah,
that level of cold, so for me, it's
I
it's
guess not.
probably
Yeah.
safe.
When I was
Yeah,
on Mount Vinson, the highest in Antarctica, it got to -53. We were in our tent for 3 days because we couldn't move anywhere. It was too cold. The wind, then the extreme cold, and boy, there was, and you only bring so many clothes with you.
yeah.
I didn't have enough with me to keep from freezing. Yeah, you're in your big down jacket and down mitts and down everything. You put everything on, plus you're hunkered down in your down sleeping bag, and nothing warms you up. You just and you suck it up. And that cold, being that cold for that long is really tough. But
I
you
can't imagine
survive,
how you.
right?
Yeah, how do you survive? You are you
You
moving?
just
Are you building a fire? What are you doing?
a fire? No, no. There's nothing to build a fire with. No, we just hunkered down in our tents. We did get out at one point, and then we had to fortify the tent. So we took ice blocks. We had little shovels, and we built ice blocks and put them all. We built like an igloo around the tent so that the tent would
Yeah,
stay upright in in those winds. We had, yeah, it
Yeah.
was, yeah, you need to block the wind. It was a tough, and then you don't want to get outside the tent. So you just hunker down inside the tent. So you don't eat, don't go to the bathroom, you don't do anything. You just hunker down and you just hope. Yeah, you just wait it. We waited it out for 3 days. It was hard. Yeah, that was my most extreme cold was in
Yeah.
Antarctica.
That's
Mhm.
incredible. Are you
Yeah.
familiar what's there's like a survival rating. Are you familiar with that?
I don't know.
I don't know if
And
this is just something there's this crazy show, Naked and Afraid, and
oh, right.
these these people go out and survive in the desert or wherever naked
Yeah.
for some reason, but they always give them a survival score. And maybe the show just made it up. I don't know, but I think you'd have a
Oh.
very high survival score.
Oh, so it's mental toughness and how you survive building a fire and
Yeah,
finding
it's based
something to
on
eat?
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
based on skill set and mental toughness and different things like that. And they always give
Uh,
their rating before and after. And sometimes they go up
oh,
because they did well, and
interesting.
the ones who just
Right.
fall apart, and it's almost always falling apart mentally,
Mentally, yes.
and then
I
their
would
score goes
agree
way
with
down.
that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah, I see a lot of people when people turn around in the mountains, it's usually not due to physical problems, it's usually due to mentally. It's too much for them. Too
yeah,
tough, too long, missing their family, missing something, and then it's easier to turn around and I go, "Oh, wow." I would much rather tough it out for another 2 weeks than come home and think, "Oh, if only I stayed 2 more weeks." Because
yeah,
then 2 weeks passes so quickly, and now you're back home without that, that climb that you just did. I always say it's way easier to just tough it out
yeah.
than come back and have the regrets. I don't want regrets.
No, I'm
Mm-mm.
curious how this has made you grow from a leadership perspective, and not just in your own toughness, but how you show up for others. Do you think it's changed you in that way?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's always for the good because I feel like my expectations of myself are extraordinarily high, and therefore I might pass that on to people who may not have the same way of thinking. And so I do need to be really aware of that, that I can't be, just go get it all the time. You have to have a softness about you. So
Yeah.
I have to work on that every day. I'd rather just get it done and just not
Yeah,
make excuses for it. Just show up, get it done. But, life gets in the way and sometimes you can't be tough 100% of the time. You
yeah.
have to show up with empathy, compassion, and vulnerability, all these things. And that to me, that's not my default. It's just plow through it, get it done. Doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt enough. So yeah,
And it's
it
hard
does
when
show.
people around you don't have that attitude.
Yeah. But they might be strong in other ways
Yeah,
that I may not be strong in, but it might not be in that way. And to me, it's like, yeah, so I do need to be more empathetic, compassionate, all that needs to show up more. But
have you
I feel like I'm wired for this, just that go get it done. No excuses. I'm wired that, and I just
there's
need
no
to.
doubt. There's no doubt you
Yeah.
are. Have you found
Yeah.
any, ways to handle that? Is it, improving your listening skills or asking the right questions about, you know, folks on your team?
It's almost like a mental check-in. Okay,
Mhm.
am I being that person or can I do better? Like, I think sometimes it's just knowing that that's where your weak spot is, and then checking in and going, "Okay, lead with something different." And
Yeah.
so I know I know I can improve. It's so I try. I do. Yeah.
Well, you also do something that I really applaud, and I'm not sure if you're still doing this, but you have led over 100 women on their first 14er climb, and you're really training them
Yes.
to develop that mental and physical toughness. And it's a
Yes.
networking opportunity, and it's called the She Summit, right? Are you still doing these?
Yes, She Summit's 14ers. So me and a really good friend of mine, her name is Erin Feiger, and she's also in the industry. And we started hiking together. We did a 14er together, and then from that came She Summit's 14ers. And so we introduced women in the industry and their friends to mountains over 14,000 feet in Colorado. And these are non-technical hikes. It's just hiking, but at altitude. So So it's a curated weekend for the women. We rent a really big VRBO. We bring in a private chef. We've got swag, and we do a lot of training leading up to it virtually, obviously, because everyone's coming in from all around the country. And we finished team 12 this year. So it's been 5 years going now. And so it's over 175 women. And
Wow.
we plan to do another 2 to 3 trips again in 2026 and introduce more women to 14ers in Colorado. Something I'm really proud of. And, I really give a lot of kudos to Erin for, having these big, bold ideas. I came in with the mountaineering mindset and that experience. And, she came in with that creative mindset and how to get women together. And between the two of us, we've curated these weekends for women. And it's been really incredible. Well, you introduced me to someone who has
Yeah.
been on now, I think, 4 trips with us and has just incredible strength and skills, and she's a really good friend of mine. We ended up going to Iceland together and Norway together, so I really appreciate you introducing me to Lisa because she's a lifelong friend now. So
Well,
it's
and
it's
I would suspect that that was a life-changing moment for her too.
I would hope so, in a good way,
You know,
yeah, like, just
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it just and the friendship that developed out of it, but,
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, she's best friends with my sister now because my
yeah,
sister joined a 14er, and so they're friends, and it's really interesting how all these are full circle moments, and so we all branched out, and I was at, a vampire dinner, so one of our the women in the industry create this, dinner bringing women together called Vampire, and I sat down with women, and there were 9 women at the table who had done a She Summits 14er. I went, "Wow." And so they were introducing themselves and they were introducing which mountain they did and which team they were on. And it was incredible, just all these little communities coming together and now, more people, and this it just has really flourished. I'm really proud of it and really proud of the women for saying yes to doing something, one that they may not have even know existed, and most people don't really know what a 14er is, and then trying something that, it's probably hard. You get into a mountain over 14,000 feet, it takes some effort, takes some training, it takes a mindset, and to be around strangers all weekend, but just say, yes, I'm going to do this, and then come away with friends. And then people like there have been multiple people who've come back over and over again because they want to do the next 14 or they want to get introduced to the next set of women. And it's been really gratifying.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've talked about this a while and you're going to do something too for sailing, right?
I do. I really wanna do something like this, and I am getting closer to my captain's license. That will help out, so yeah.
Congratulations. That's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah,
See, I don't
thank
need a
you.
license for this. You need a license. So you've got more preparation than me. That's
Well,
amazing.
2 more questions for you. 1, what would you say to anyone who's listening who's in the middle of a really difficult climb? And I'm not talking about out on Everest, but just, we have moments in life that are really a tough
Mhm.
climb. What would you recommend? Other than suck it up.
I know. I was actually thinking I better not say that. You know, I firmly believe we're all on a journey. And we're all on a journey to reach our version of our summit. And when I look back at my journey to the summit of Everest, I realize that bad things happened to me. Bad emotions happened to me, good emotions, good experiences, and all of that was for a reason. And if I take out any one of those moments or people who got introduced in my life or emotions that I had to experience, I may not have made that summit. So I left Canada for a reason. It wasn't a good reason. I was moved countries. I was lonely, as someone who was a blip in time in my life got, mentioned that book. I read the book. All these things that happened, some were good, some were bad. But anytime something bad happens to me now, I always think, oh, it's because I've got another summit to get to, metaphorically, and I need to
Mhm.
experience this in order to get there. So I think, okay, as much as it's not great to go through bad emotions or bad times, maybe it's needed in order to get to your version of your summit. And I see this with every summit I've been on. There's always ebbs and flows in life, and I think, okay, I've got to be in this ebb, this flow, because that's going to put me on that journey to the summit. So I think we're all on a journey, and we're not. It's not always going to be a straight line. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be always happy, but we need to experience that to reach what that summit is,
Yeah.
whatever that summit is for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're saying, in every difficult time, it might be personal or professional or physical, whatever
Mhm.
it is, it does tend to toughen us at the end of the day. It's hard to see it sometimes when you're in it, but it is toughening us up and leading us to that next summit.
It does, and it's sometimes it's okay. I look back on everything that I went through, and I'm glad I went through it. I'm happy now. In the thick of things, I wasn't happy to have these bad experiences or emotions, but it's okay. I look back and go, "It's okay. It got me to where I wanted to go," and I'm
Yeah.
really, really grateful. Yeah,
Very good, Lou.
yeah,
Okay, last question. What's
yeah.
next? Are you going back to Denali? Have you picked it yet? Are you already starting to plot the next one?
Yes.
Back
So,
to
yes.
Denali?
So my goal is to finish the 7 summits, which is the highest mountain on every continent, and
Hmm.
so I have 6 mountains completed. Denali is my last one, so I don't wanna finish the 6 of the 7, I wanna get to the 7 of the 7, and Denali is it. So this will be my 5th time training for it and my 3rd time on the mountain. So I trained for it and COVID happened, I trained for it and I busted my knee. So 5 times training for Denali, and Denali training is 6 full months of that heavy strength, heavy
Oof.
cardio. So I've started it and I've like, whew. So yes, that's my next goal. So I hope to get on the mountain in May of next year. And if I can finish it, I'll be very happy. I'll probably be one of the oldest females in the world to have summit the 7 summits. It's taken me a very long time to finish it, but some things don't come overnight. So I'm okay with that. And we'll see. So yes, that's my goal. Finish
Wow.
next year. And then I can be free to do another mountain like maybe Everest again. Who knows?
Well, I wish you great luck in weather and just fantastic training and everything that
Thank
goes
you.
into it. And we're going to be
Aw,
watching too to make sure that.
okay. I appreciate it. Yeah, nice talking to you and good luck with bold journeys. I
Yeah.
love the concept. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Lou.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Bye.